Let's talk about the causes of this Brexit vote, where the UK 71, just under 72% turnout, saw 51.9% of those who chose to vote voting to exit the European Union. There's the economic side, and then there's the immigrant fear side. So in recent years, we've seen a number of economic problems start to enter the European Union. You know about Greece and the debt crisis. Generally speaking, there has been concern, and you can't really unwind the economic and the immigrant concerns. There has been concern from some, many depending on which area we're looking at, that the influx of immigrants and refugees with this free movement between EU member states has become a drag on the economy, both in terms of the job market as well as the welfare, state, and social program costs. Both of these are areas that influenced those who wanted to exit the European Union in the United Kingdom. Entrants from Romania and Bulgaria, for example, have been entering the European Union, and many of them finding their way to the United Kingdom. And while running for re-election back in 2015, now resigned Prime Minister David Cameron vowed that he would cut the net inflow of people to the UK to under 100,000 a year. Was not able to do that, Louis. Last year, that number hit 330,000. And so the big picture here is sort of twofold. Economic side, would the UK not be better off separating from what are problems with the EU economies and particularly the economies of certain EU member states? But you can't really separate that from the broader situation of immigration, which has become very, very concerning, particularly to many neo-nationalist groups around around Europe. That being said, I did get one email, Louis, that said, "Hey, David, I'm liberal. When you look at the pros and cons of Brexit, consider that America can absorb refugees and immigrants in a way that Britain simply cannot because of the size of Britain. The national healthcare system is different than what you have in the United States, in spite of some of the state healthcare safety nets. So even some liberals are understandably concerned about the economic impacts of what's going on with immigration, and ultimately 72% turnout, voting 52% to get out."
Mm-hmm. Well, when you look at it as just a sheer numbers thing, what was it? 300 something thousand refugees into the UK last year.
330.
Okay, so times are a bit different right now, and we know why there might be more refugees than usual. But still, think about that just as a numbers game. I mean, down the line, if you have, let's say, I'll be generous, 150, 200,000 a year coming into your country, they all have children every year. I mean, the numbers multiply so quickly. And it is a small country. And based on their, economy, economic system, healthcare, all that, it could be a huge problem.
Let's talk about by country, how the UK voted, because very different results if you break this down based on location within the UK. England voted 53 to 46 to exit, and Wales voted 52 to 47 to exit. However, Scotland voted 62 to 38 to remain part of the UK, and Northern Ireland voted 56 to 44 to remain in the UK. You can slice this a few other ways as well. Urban tended to want to stay in the UK, whereas rural tended to want to leave the UK. And I think we're good with this graphic, Louis. Younger people were more likely to want to stay in the EU. Older wanted to leave, and I think I said before, leave or stay the UK. I'm talking about the EU. Younger tended to want to stay within the EU. Older tended to want to leave the EU. And now there are questions about Scotland. There are questions about Northern Ireland, even questions about Gibraltar. Scotland says it is not democratic that they as a country voted to remain in the EU, but by virtue of being part of the United Kingdom, they now are bound, to the extent that this is a non-binding resolution, but to the extent that the UK will move forward on this, they now, in spite of as a country wanting to remain, have voted, are part of a bigger vote to exit. A second independence referendum is now being talked about in Scotland, specifically over this issue. Northern Ireland voted to stay. Deputy First Minister Martin McGuinness said that the impact on Northern Ireland would be very profound and that Ireland really should now reconsider reunification. So look at all of the political fallout of what's going on. And lastly, Gibraltar, which is this small peninsula off the south coast of Spain, very small place, has been a British territory since 1713. Gibraltar voted to remain in the UK. As far as Spain is concerned, including what their foreign minister said, this opens the door to a Spanish flag on the rock, to quote the Spanish foreign minister. If you go to Gibraltar and you say, hey, you can be part of the UK, but you'll be out of the EU, or you can stay in the EU, but you become part of Spain, all of a sudden that possibility becomes more compelling. So endless political repercussions possibly here.
Yes, and depending on how messy it gets, maybe nothing happens at all. But yeah, it's interesting to see this happening, and certainly leaving the UK is probably sounding pretty good to many people right now in Scotland, in Northern Ireland. Interesting stuff.
I've talked about how people of all ages, but particularly millennials, are owning cars less and participating more in the sharing economy. And one of the more popular options is Zipcar, which gets you a car when you want it, when you need it. They offer all sorts of cars, SUVs, hybrids, whatever you need. It includes insurance and it includes gas. You just pay for the time that you actually use the car. And you can reserve the car online, from your smartphone, over the phone. Then you unlock it with your Zip card. Each car share member reduces their personal CO2 emissions by between 1,100 and 1,600 pounds per year. For our audience, Zipcar is offering $25 of free driving credit if you sign up at joinzipcar.com/David. Support our show, reduce your carbon emissions and your spending on cars. Sign up at joinzipcar.com/David.